Okay, so one of the reasons I bought the 2-in-1 version of the Evolve Carbon GT was I have the flexibility of going from the street wheels to the all-terrain wheels. Now, Evolve say with the new design you can change it over really quickly. I'll put a little link to how quick they say. I think it's like 5 or 10 minutes they said. So in this video I'm going to show you how to do that and explain a little bit more about the versatility. So you'll see in the video you have to kind of put the bearings in the wheels and everything, and the first time I did the install it took me around 25 minutes, which I think is pretty good for the first time, and also as being cautious and trying to work out exactly what I was doing. So I think that's a pretty good turnaround in times of, you know, to change from one mode to the other. The quick go I've had on it, the all-terrain really increases versatility. It eats up the bumps much better. You can actually go faster, you feel more stable at higher speed. Still haven't gone really fast, but yeah, I definitely think it's kind of worth trying out these all-terrain wheels. Once I've had this for about a month, I'm probably going to do a 1 month in review and give my thoughts around obviously the board as a whole, if I'm riding more on the street wheels or the AT wheels, but so far this thing's just brilliant. So let me show you the video, how to do the conversion. There's also an official link in the description from Evolve on how to do it. I'm just showing you my experience. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is actually put the bearings into each of the wheels. So personally, I put a little bit of grease into the center of each wheel just for two reasons. One, to help the bearings go in a little bit more easily, but also to help reduce kind of clonking and creaking noises over time. So obviously you can still take the bearings out and kind of grease around them in the future, but for me I just find it to be a little bit easier. You can see here I'm also using a plastic glove just to try and stop the dirt and grease from getting on my hands. Once you put the bearings in the one side, next thing we can do is put the spacers in the center. This is where the axle kind of slides through. So grab these and put them in. I found it was a bit tricky at first, so if you use one of the longer Allen keys to kind of essentially string it on, and then you can kind of point it through the bearing and it will drop straight into place. So again, just need to do that with each of the wheels, and then put the last bearing into each of them as well, so you have then the wheels completed. Okay, make sure you don't push down firmly to make sure the bearings are well seated. They will help to get seated when you tie them up, but if you do it now, save yourself a bit of trouble. So that's it, all 4 wheels good and ready to go. So next thing we need to do is get everything ready, take the old street wheels off and put these things on. You'll notice for the real wheels where we have the cog mechanism, it's kind of that hard kind of plastic. We need to put bearings in there as well. So again, same here, I put a little bit of grease in and we push those home just so everything's ready, so when we take the wheels off we'll be good to go with everything we need. So we're going to use these cog pieces and the drive belts. So do that for both of them and then you'll be all set. Now the rest of the washers and bolts, they're spares. We don't need to use those. We're going to have to reuse everything we take off of the street setup. So put these away safe in the bag, and you can use those in the future if you lose something or if something gets broken. So let's clear some room, get rid of all this stuff, and start taking the board apart. So we'll start off with the easy ones, to take the front wheels off first. So you've got your Evolve kind of skate tool already, so you can just use that, undo the nylon nuts on the first side. You'll notice once you've got this nut off and you pull it off, there will be a single black washer. So make sure you don't lose that. Put it to one side, because again you're going to reuse that a bit later. and you'll find that there are 2 silver washers left on the axle there. I think in the future Evolve plan to change it, so instead of having double, they just kind of have thicker, and later on you'll see there's 4 washers, they just kind of have a single thicker washer. So simply take the first one of your all-terrain wheels, pop that on, put the washer on that you took off, and then apply the nut. Key thing to make sure when you're putting the wheel on that the valve for the wheel is pointing out. So obviously if you're going to need to add air, there's no air in the wheels already, so that's going to make it a lot easier, so that the valve should be pointing to the outside. Do that up hand tight, give it a good spin, make sure it spins freely, and then we can do the same on the other side. Okay, now let's do the fun piece. Let's do the back ones. So the first thing we're going to do is take off the drive belt cover. In your box you should have a small Allen key, and you can use this to undo the 2 Allen key bolts. You should find these come undone relatively easy. I think they're supposed to be Loctite in these. On mine there didn't seem to be any applied, it came out really easily, but you'll see later in the video I do use Loctite when putting those back on. So take these 2 Allen key screws out, put them to one side so you don't lose them. This case, this drive belt casing we won't be using. This is specific for the street wheels, and in your set you will have the smaller version that you can use once you move to the all-terrain version. Okay, so same as the front wheels, we just need to take the wheel off. So undo the bolt as previously. Again, you're going to have the self-tightening or the lock nut that you take off and the washer. And you kind of have to just kind of manipulate this off a little bit, and you'll see kind of the drive cog piece comes off behind. Now be very careful when you're pulling this wheel off, because behind there in some form is going to be these 4 washers that we mentioned earlier, and you don't want to lose those. So hold on to the drive belt behind, give this a little tug, you should see this comes off. Just double check that there's no washers on the inside there, and they should be nicely hidden on the inside. You can see one's fallen off, we should have 4 of those as I mentioned already. So rock this forward a little bit. We want to take the whole drive belt off and the cog unit. So just ease it off. Obviously it should be relatively snug, because that's how the belt is supposed to be, but it shouldn't be too tricky for you to pull off. Give the drive belt a little knock, and like I said, you should see the washers come out, and you're looking to have 4 of these all together. So again, keep those safe. We're going to use them when we put the wheels back on, and again should be 2 washers still on the axle that you can keep there. So the next thing we need to do is we need to undo the 4 Allen key bolts that hold the motor in place. So this is using a slightly larger Allen key. You only have to give these really a quarter of a turn, depending how long it's been since you've made any changes. These can be quite hard to undo, so just use a little bit of force, it should come undone. Like I said, only quarter of a turn. We just want to be able to move the motor slightly in its housing. We don't want to take it off completely. What you'll find when you've undone this, and you can gently move it by moving the motor unit at the rear, you want to kind of move this kind of to the far right side, as we're looking at in this case, to get the cog and the new belt on. So put the belt over the new drive unit, and we're going to gently slide that over onto the axle. You need two hands here because you need to get the belt over the drive motor as well, and then gently wiggle and persuade this into place. You'll find when you're first doing this, obviously the drive cog is quite close to the motor cog. There's hardly any space, so you may find some friction if you try and turn it. And here's what we're trying to do, is we're going to slowly then apply force to push that motor away from the drive unit. And that's going to give us the right tension we need to have the wheels to be turning properly and have the right torque and no slippage. As you see here, grip the belt and gently push the motor forward with your thumb. Hold that in place. Then using that large Allen key, you should be able to gently tighten up 2 of those Allen key bolts. So again, don't have to do that really tight. They should already have thread lock on them. If you're doing this regularly, again, apply new thread lock. But just do it enough and you should see that the motor isn't moving back under tension. So again, quarter a turn on the 2 bolts that you can gain access to. Then similar to before, when we're taking the smaller drive wheel and drive belt off, gently remove the belt so that you can get to those other 2 bolts and tighten it up completely. The key thing here is, take your time. Once you've done it a few times, you'll be much more proficient at it. You can do it a lot quicker. But really right now you want to just focus on not breaking anything or getting anything wrong. Okay, so that looks good. Let's put the drive belt and the wheel cogs back on. This is a little bit more tricky, obviously things are a lot tighter, so make sure that you've got the belt properly over the motor cog when you're pushing it all the way home. Again, a little bit of alignment onto the axle, and then you should be able to push it snugly all the way back. What I did here is just made sure the drive belt was pushed up to the lip of the larger cog that goes on the wheel, just to make sure kind of everything was aligned in the same place. Okay, so the next thing to do here, which actually you'll see I make the mistake of in the video, is to get out the smaller drive belt cover and apply that now, because obviously once the wheel is on, you're not going to be able to do that. You won't be able to get to the Allen keys, the Allen key screw holes to remount that. But in the video here, you see we've put the 4 washers back on, so that's very important. 4 washers go back on, and the wheel goes on over the top. Should just fit very snugly into each of the points on the wheel, and it should marry up without any problem. You don't have to worry where the valve is. Again, make sure it's pointing outside, but that drive unit has small indentations that will mean that it just fits up with any location that the valve is on the wheel when you're pushing it in, assuming it's on the outside. So make sure that's pushed snugly. We can add the last washer to the outside and put the bolt back on. And then, like I said, had we done the belt cover in the right order, we would be good to go. As you can see, there seems to be quite good movement with the wheel, so let's carry on. I'm just going to quickly take this wheel back off and put the drive belt cover on, like I said we should have done the first time round, and then we'll flip to the other side, speed through the quick change, and then show you the belt being refitted. Again, as I mentioned previously, if you're in the same situation, you're trying to fit the belt cover on with the wheel on, you're going to have no success at all. You need to take that wheel back off and do it right the first time. You may have really small hands, it's just not going to happen. Okay, enough messing about, let's get on with the other side. So again, same as before, take the wheel off, take the belt cover off, change the wheels over, adjust the motor, and then let's get back to putting that drive belt cover on properly. Okay, so now let's show you how to do it properly. So as I mentioned before, put a bit of thread lock on there before putting the wheel back on, so you have the drive belt exposed. Now we want to put that drive belt cover on. So again, find those two small Allen key screws that you put to one side right at the beginning when you did the disassembly, and put those on. I recommend doing the top one first, so it kind of swings freely at the bottom, and this will allow you to do up the end at the lower end. As with all of these bolts, you don't need to do them up really tight. You don't need to use power tools. Just hand tight is good enough. The thread locker is going to help keep things all together. Obviously, you should check these things regularly. You get quite a lot of vibration when riding the board. So with any good maintenance, just checking and keeping a keen eye on all these things is really key. Okay, so that's the drive belt cover back on. We should be good to go. Let's put the rest of this thing together and then check how the wheels turn. Okay, so the next thing to do is to power up the board and make sure that the wheels turn as expected. Now, they're never going to turn exactly the same rate. So you see I line the logos up on the belt, on the belts here, and you'll see when we turn around there is a slight disparity in the speed they turn. I did decide that as we look at this here, at the end of the testing, that the left belt was slightly slacker than the right, so I did take it off and make a slight tightness adjustment, and once it's on the ground and you accelerate off, everything stays 100% true and straight. So I'm really happy with how it's performing. But obviously just do a couple of runs. Like I said, the wheels should turn pretty much the same time as each other, but it's not going to be spot on, super accurate, and that's fine, that's to be expected. So that's it, you should be good to go. As mentioned at the beginning, you need to get some air in these tyres. I think they recommend somewhere around 35 psi. I think they can take up to 50 psi or something. So depending on your weight and how much you want to kind of feel the road through your feet will define how much you like. Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.